So I think everybody can relate to this at some point in a career, but the one thing I definitely learned the hard way was not understanding what this job actually is. We all get into this business, I think, for different reasons, but in the same vein, right? We want to be entrepreneurs. We want to work for ourselves. We want to create our own schedule. Um, the money is attractive, all of it, right? Like that's why most people get into this industry. But at the end of the day, what you see on TV and what I think the general public think this job is showing houses, opening doors, talking to people about selling their home, that kind of thing. And I don't think that's it at all. That is the byproduct of you actually doing your job correctly. This is a sales job at the end of the day. And 90% of sales should be prospecting and being involved in your community, talking to your sphere of influence, all that kind of thing. And if you're doing that effectively and most important, consistently, byproduct or the side effect of that is you do get to open more doors and show people more houses and talk to people about selling their home around the kitchen table, right? So I didn't really get that at the beginning, and I don't think most people do. But again, so you learn that the hard way. Well, how does that happen? It's like, well, you start to realize that if you're not doing those things consistently, you just continually ride this roller coaster of the seasonality of our market, of the real estate market in general, and its natural ups and downs. And if you continually do what got you there, it smooths that out quite a bit, where you're not going through that roller coaster of commission checks and busyness. Because the second that we get busy, right? We stop doing the things that got us busy. So you learn that pretty quick once you go through a couple lean winters here in Alberta. So I really think it's important that once you learn that, and again, if you learn that at the beginning and learn from others' mistakes instead of making your own, you're miles ahead of most people. But once you realize that is what it takes, it gives you the right perspective on what this job is, and it can lead you down, the more correct path. Um, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm very involved in my kids' lives and their sports and all of that. And so, yes, creating your own schedule and working for yourself and being your own boss, all of that is great. But at the end of the day, no one tells you how hard that is to do. But ultimately, we still have that choice, right? And so, if you are doing things consistently from the get-go, it allows you that freedom and flexibility, maybe not at first, but certainly a lot quicker than you would imagine to be able to make those choices of, you know what, listen, I'm not going to do this work thing. I am going to go to the kids' hockey game or soccer game or whatever the case may be, right? And it goes just beyond that. If you're involved in your community in any form, whether you're on boards or committees involved in charities or council or anything like that. It allows you to be able to do those things because you set that foundation up in the beginning, right? And the nice thing about this is it's just a snowball effect, right? Because the more consistent you are with those prospecting activities in your job, the more freedom and flexibility it gives you later to do other things in your community and with your family. And the best part about that is that just breeds on new business in itself, right? So I live in Leduc, Alberta, so just outside of Edmonton. If anybody's ever flown into Edmonton, that's actually where I live, right by the airport. Um, so it's a bit different, right? Because I'm in a community of about 40,000 people outside of a community of 1.3 million. But we're so close, so it's hard to really kind of see those borders sometimes. And I think one of the mistakes I made earlier in my career was I didn't focus on the community that I actually lived in. I focused on the one that's 1.3 million people 10 minutes away, right? Once I started focusing more on my local community, my business actually thrived, even though the population is obviously a lot smaller. The ratio of realtors to people is a lot higher, right? But even once I started focusing on my community, my business took off because once you are known as a member of the community, it just snowballs from there, right? And when I first started in real estate, I had kids, very very little though, like newborn and a 2 year old. So the kids weren't really involved in any activities. I didn't grow up here, so I didn't really like have all those connections from people I went to high school with or grew up with, things like that. So once you start getting involved in the community, it just sort of snowballs from there. So my natural progression and being involved more in my community was just sort of the age of my kids, right? As they started getting more involved in school stuff and sports stuff and things like that, you just get to know a whole bunch of more people. And listen, they're going to know what you do. You don't need to necessarily lead every conversation with it, but people get to know you, get to know what you do for a living. And that just morphs into more business. And listen, people are going to work with people who they connect with, right? Now, sometimes that can backfire on people because you, as a member of the public, you might connect with somebody in the community they're not that great at their job. You don't know, right? So if you're both, it's certainly even better. If you're knowledgeable and you're an expert in your industry and you're involved in the community, all right, those two things combined is just going to help your business, no matter what industry you're in, quite frankly. All right, so when no one is watching is sort of where all the magic happens, and quite frankly, at the end of the day, where your money is made. Um, so I say this to people a lot who are coming up in real estate or looking for some tips or things like that is, listen, I don't care what job it is in the world, every job has some component of small, mundane, repeatable, everyday tasks that you probably don't like, right? I mean, every job has that. But that's really where all the magic happens. So it might not be the most sexiest thing, it might not be the funnest thing in the world, but the stuff when I'm sitting down in front of my computer between about 8 and 11:30 in the morning when I'm not out doing other stuff in my job, um, when no one is watching, it's not stuff that's being posted on social media. It's not fun to watch. But that's really where any salesperson, especially realtors, will make all their money. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about treating this like a job. And if you do those small, repeatable, mundane tasks consistently, where no one is watching, you will be successful because the vast majority of people in this industry do not do that well or consistently. So one of the tools I've actually been using this for probably 5 or 6 years now, and it's super simple. This is not it's free, which is nice. It's not complicated. It's a very simple thing. It's just a screen recording system that I have on my well on all my devices, but normally as when I'm sitting in front of my desktop like this, that has helped me dramatically. And this what I use it for is a couple of different things. So all of my active listings, they get a weekly update to what's going on in the market. Okay, so I have a house and it has half a dozen, maybe 9, 10 homes that it's competing with realistically. I show them my version of my MLS system on my screen and I show them exactly who they're competing with, why I think they need to be priced here and not here. Yeah, this one's a little bit higher, but it should be because of XYZ. Here's the two that sold last week, and here's why I think they sold before you did. Whatever the update is for that week, I give them that update. And there's only been one person that told me to stop sending them videos. I need to see the data. I need to see the data. I was like, okay, cool, no problem. Every other person has absolutely loved it. So that's been really great to help me stay in touch with my active clients, my listings. I also do that with buyers as well. So we all have buyers that are at some stage of the pipeline of the buying process. And so I use this for the ones who are not really active. We're not actively going out and looking at homes this week or next week, right? So these are people that are kind of more like 3 to 6 months away. Um, Again, usually every week, sometimes it stretches into every 2 weeks, but I send them an update on, all right, here's your criteria that I have you set up on. I know that you're seeing the emails of all these new listings coming up. Has anything changed? Do we need to change any of the criteria or looking at other areas? Whatever the case may be. Again, I get really, really positive feedback from that from my buyers. And then the third thing I primarily use this for is for listing presentations. So I have always done a one-step listing presentation, meaning, I know there's a sort of two schools of thoughts on how you should do this. You should send a pre-listing package and then you come and sit down and like I've always done it in a one step. I go there, I show up, and we talk about numbers at that same meeting. After I've given them my spiel on why they should hire me, I talk to them about numbers right off the bat. with a few exceptions to that, mainly with rural property, because there's so many different things going on with acreages and farms that it's almost impossible to do all your research beforehand. But occasionally, primarily with, like I said, acreage, like acreages and farms, and then builders. So I do work with quite a few builders as well. And those meetings tend to be a lot more sort of informal. Like, hey, let's go meet at the house. Let's go look at this new floor plan. Let's go look at this new community. Those meetings are a lot more informal. So then what I'll do is I'll do like the current, the comparable market evaluation on my screen with them sort of in live time. And I'll show them exactly what their competition is, where they should be priced, and why. I said live. It's not live. It's a recording that gets sent to them. And I think the most beautiful part about that is they can't argue back to you in real time, right? Here's what I think you should price this home at, and here's why. Email. It notifies me when they read that email, so I know they've seen it. Then we can have a conversation after. So there's less reactionary commentary back and forth. If I say a number they don't like, it's not emotional in the moment, right? They have a chance to process, let that percolate a little bit, and then you have that conversation later. So again, this is something that is completely free. It's not like some new advanced technology. This has been around for a long time, but it really, really helps me, I think, have the client feel more connected to me, partly because it's pretty intuitive, but partly because no one else is doing that for them. If somebody was following me around for the next 5 years, I think what they're going to see is consistency more than anything. Now, there's different levels to it, right? Consistency just means you're doing something over and over again on a consistent basis, obviously. When I say there's levels to that, you're listening to this and you're brand new in the industry. The level that you used to be doing and the amount of time spent doing those small mundane prospecting tasks could be greater than what I'm doing today, and likely going forward over the next 5 years. But the things that are working for me today are not going to change. I mean, some of the technology might change, some of the platforms used might change a little bit, but ultimately that activity is going to remain the same for the next 5 years. It's not going to change because it hasn't changed over the last 100. So over the course of the next 5 years, with the age of my kids and things like that, I have about another 3 years of, quite frankly, I want to stay where I am with the amount of production that I'm doing, with the amount of time spent on my business. And then my plan, quite frankly, is to ramp up for about 5 years after that. And then that's it. I want to start winding it back down. Now, what that looks like, to be determined a little bit, but likely building up a team again. I've had several different iterations of teams in the past, but building up a team again to where I'm less involved in the day to day, but still doing the things behind the scenes, generating those leads, and having other people do the legwork. So yeah, I think consistency in dance with the girl that brought you, right? Like just keep doing the same stuff that you've been doing that got you here. And if you do that, and you add in a thing or two here and there as the market changes and as technology changes, as the industry changes. But quite frankly, if somebody wants to follow me around, that's what they're going to see. It might be kind of boring, right? They're going to see me doing the same stuff I'm doing now, but that's what it takes. I think that the reason why I joined is very, very simple, but I think it's going to be incredibly rewarding as we move forward. Um, Revenue share model brokerages have been around for quite some time now. Um, I think it's pretty hard to dispute the fact that they're here to stay. And so when I saw an opportunity to be part of one that was um, not only new, like there's a sense of pride in helping build something from the ground up and turning it into something much bigger than yourself, right? Like there's a sense of pride, I think, for anybody involved in doing that. And that's something that I wanted to be a part of. I joined another brokerage, I would say fairly early on, especially in the Canadian iteration of it, but it wasn't nearly as early as what this is. So the sense of pride in helping grow something into something much bigger than it is today was a really, really attractive thing for me, and one of the reasons why I joined. Second thing is, of course, it is a Canadian company, right? And you know, geopolitics aside, um, there's value in that. There's value in keeping it Canadian. The unofficial, that's what KIC stands for unofficially. It doesn't actually stand for that. But this all kind of came about with all the geopolitical stuff going on. But again, that aside, it's just all these other companies just send their dollars to the US. Like at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? So why not be part of something that keeps everything within our country, helps grow it within our borders, and grow it in the right way? And we're going to craft this in a way that it just fits. Um, every American company, real estate company that comes into Canada, certainly at the beginning, it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. We get treated as the 51st state because they just think everything's the same. And as much as we're similar to our friends to the south, we're just as different, culturally, legally, privacy legislation being probably the biggest one that kind of affect our industry and how they go about doing their business down south. So avoiding all of that and building it up from within our borders to ensure that everything sort of runs smoothly. So I think that when we look back at this in 10 years, and that's what this is. This is a 10-year journey until I think that's going to be something where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. If it's 5 years, amazing. There's probably more like 10 years. We're in our infancy, and these companies take time. And we also don't have 350 million people to help build it. We have 40 million people. So it's going to take some time, but the future, I think, of KIC Realty is going to be amazing because people know this model works. You cannot dispute that. They are here to stay. We're already seeing traditional legacy type brokerages scramble and adapt to try and morph their model into something like this, or at least adapting to the point where they stop losing people. So again, this is going to be something where we look back on it in 5 to 10 years, and I know that I'm going to be so proud of what we were able to accomplish. So helping grow the company from the ground up is rewarding. And listen, it's financially beneficial. That's just the reality of it. Being in early at a company like this with how the model works, the earlier at the company, the more financial upside and potential that you have. That's just a fact. So obviously that was a big factor as well. But I do want to stress the Canadian aspect of it because if you've ever experienced frustration at another brokerage because maybe they released this awesome new tool that it's available for everyone and it's like, oh my God, this is great. Oh, sorry, except for you, Canada. Like I saw that a lot in the past. And it's just because everything doesn't work the same up here. So I'm super excited to see where KIC Realty is in a few years and super proud to be part of it right from the get-go. So my name is Jesse. I run the Loader Group with KIC Realty. Been doing this for 15 years, and I would love to chat with you about this amazing brokerage. You can find me on all social channels at Live Love Leduc.